Well, good afternoon, everybody. I guess I should stay over here. Like Mr. Gannon says, my name is Rob Burford. I work in the Dean of Students office, have worked in that office for 15 years. But what I'm here to talk to you today about is academic integrity issues, is how it applies in the classroom for you all, and what you do to help prevent it, and what to do if it does happen within your course. So here's what I'm going to cover. I know that font's a little small there. I'm going to assist you all to find out how to understand and make a good environment to deter academic integrity incidents in the classroom, to assist you all to understand how to address, should an incident occur, so if you should have an incident of academic integrity, how to address that, understanding the actions that you can take, also understanding how our office, the Dean of Students office, can help you out in these kind of situations, and understanding the other resources here at UNM. And then also I have one slide on some current trends that was just recently shared with me from an article from the LA Times. Looks like it cut out some of that over on that side. Anyways, the purpose of our academic integrity / academic dishonesty phrase in our department is, it's to assist faculty in creating an atmosphere that promotes academic integrity amongst all students. That's undergraduates and graduate students. In furtherance of this goal, faculty are encouraged to educate students as the definition of academic dishonesty, which almost all faculty will put some sort of academic integrity policy within their syllabus, which is a very good thing for you all to go back to and say, you know, this is what our academic integrity policy is for this class. And that's something I know probably almost everybody covers during that first day of class when you're going over the syllabus. Also the procedures to address that and the consequences of such behavior. Again, all those things are identified typically in the syllabus for you all. Faculty can play a major role in assisting students to understand the importance of academic integrity and explain the various forms of academic dishonesty that can give students a clear understanding of the expectations of their work here at UNM. So first off, here's some listed prevention techniques for you. You want to discuss academic dishonesty first and foremost. You want to make sure you just don't want to gloss over that. You want to make sure that is done during that first classroom. You don't want to wait until later on after the first month's gone by because maybe you're having the students write something for you during that first week of class. You want to do that after your first class. Reaffirm the importance of academic integrity within the educational process. Present an appropriate ethical model for students. Create an environment that encourages academic honesty and fairness within the classroom. And follow up on cases where you suspect academic dishonesty. So if you actually suspect this is one thing. I talk to a lot of faculty members where I think this has happened. My first question is going to be to that faculty member is, have you talked to the student about that? Have them explain to you what the situation is. That might give you a better gauge as to whether they purposely did this or something unknowingly, if they've partook in academic integrity. So it's important that you do follow up when there's a case that you suspect of academic dishonesty. And address the issue in the class syllabus, like I've mentioned already a couple times. So some other prevention techniques. Maintain control of the exams by collecting all of them after each exam. Some professors, and I've had professors ask me this, it doesn't happen as much anymore, where it says, gosh, you know, I know somebody got a hold of one of my old exams, and one of my first questions to them is, do you take those exams back up? How do you control the access to your exams? Because maybe if you're giving the same exam over and over, you know, people maintain exam databases in certain student groups and stuff. So you want to make sure you change that up. Keep the exams in a secure part of your office and try to eliminate waste copies. Again, if you're getting rid of an exam, make sure it's shredded. A lot of this seems to be common sense, but sometimes people forget. For large classes or multiple sections, faculty may want to use multiple forms of the examination. I know some faculty members have people sit, you know, not right next to each other. They assign seats, like maybe it's different tests for each one of those, or depending on where you are in the row. Distribute the weight given to each exam paper so students are not tempted to cheat. So if you're a class that only has 2 graded items, whether it's papers, exams, there's going to probably be a lot more temptation to cheat in those classes versus something that has a lot more. Now, I'm not telling you, okay, let's have 20 assignments for the class, but just think about that when you're setting up your class and how you're grading things within your class, is if there's a lot of weight to, say, 2 assignments, there's more of an opportunity for that student to say, gosh, I have to make sure I'm doing really well on this paper, this exam, so there's more of an opportunity for them to possibly cheat on that paper or exam. Do not utilize undergraduate students to type or duplicate examinations. Again, you're putting those student workers in a situation where they may know other peers, know other people in that class, know other people in a student group or something. Make sure you're checking student IDs. We've actually had that happen where other students come in, take an exam for somebody else, so make sure you're checking student IDs if you need to once they give that answer sheet in, because that has happened, unfortunately, more often than I'd like to say. What you should do if academic integrity occurs. Prior to making a decision, again, one thing faculty members will call our office and say, I want this student out of my class. And my first question back to you is going to say, well, have you talked to the student about the situation? Because again, you want to give them an opportunity to explain themselves, even if it seems so egregious. Like Dr. Gann was saying earlier, when they just totally lift something off out of a site, and it's like, gosh, here's the paper. Gosh, this was in the LA Times. Now it's all of a sudden Rob Burford's paper. He's not citing anything else. We've actually had that happen. I just had this happen a couple weeks ago where a student, unfortunately, plagiarized the actual professor of that course's paper from prior. It was pretty sad. So anyways, the professor, needless to say, was not too happy about that. Anyways, so they lifted the entire paper from that professor, turned it into that same class. So again, not something that went over too well, not the professor or our office. So anyways, after discussion, the faculty member may drop the matter if the violation is unfounded. So if you talk to them and it's like, gosh, maybe there's a misunderstanding of citation. I know Dr. Bird said some things about that. As, gosh, there's a lot of ways to cite things. Maybe they were taught a little differently, and you think back to how you're letting your students know about citing things properly within the class. Maybe you say, okay, let's make sure you understand this point forward. I would document that meeting as far as that you've had that conversation. It's like, okay, we've talked about proper citations. Here you go, and I'll just use my name. Here you go, Rob. This is, again, just reiterating how you cite things. So in case they conveniently forget again in the future, that way you've already addressed it with them, and then you can hold them accountable for that academic integrity issue. Faculty may also impose a grade reduction up to an F, so I hope everybody knows that. You have that ability to go all the way up to failing them out of the class. Even on a simple case of academic integrity, you can do anything from nothing, which obviously doesn't teach them anything, all the way up to failing them out of the class. What I advise you to do is talk to your departments to see what is consistent within the department. So if you have a simple plagiarism, is somebody lifting something off the internet, is using it in their paper, what is typically done within your department? Some departments have very strict, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this, this, and this. So you want to make sure that you understand exactly what you do, but you can go all the way up to giving an F in the course and withdrawing that student from the course. So you have that, you have that opportunity to do that if you so choose. And like I said, it's best to consult with your chair or dean to make sure the sanction is appropriate and consistent with what's been done in the past. A student may appeal your decision, even if I've had a student one time go all the way up to the president's office appealing a situation. They finally admitted it at that point. They got an attorney and everything, and they said no because their parents were involved. It causes a lot of angst for the people going through that. But fortunately at that point she finally said, yeah, I did this. And it was very simple. I mean, there's a lot of information against this student, but the student was saying, no, 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 this was never me, and it kept going up the appeal chain. But don't let that deter you. I mean, but students do have the right to appeal the decisions made. Is say if you do fail a student out of the class, the next step for them is talk to the chair. After that, to talk to the dean of the college that class is in, and they can go all the way up to the provost office. They can go to the president's office. That rarely happens because most of that's ironed out beforehand. And as you'll find out as instructors and faculty members, that it's pretty easy to catch. I know we have materials out there. A lot of professors will use Google, they'll use Turnitin, whatever, to find this information. But again, they do have the right to appeal the decisions. So how our office can play a role? One of the things we strongly encourage all faculty members, and I wanted to allay people's fears, gosh, if it goes over to the Dean of Students' office, we're going to all of a sudden react and kick them out of school and they're all done, we ruin their careers. That's not what we do. Now, if they're selling exams and doing those kind of things, then yeah, that might happen. But if a simple case of academic integrity, we would at least like you to send that to our office in case that person, forgot about that educational moment they had in another class where they talked to the professor and it's like, oh, I didn't know how to cite and all this stuff, and they went through all that with another professor. That way they can't just cheat in their English class, go over to sociology, cheat there, go over to anthropology and cheat there. That way we have a centralized source to know that, what kind of student we're dealing with. And you have the right as a faculty member to ask our office, has there been any other incidents of academic integrity that have been sent to your office regarding this student? That's your right as a faculty member. So you can always call me up and say, Rob, I have Rob Burford here, he's cheated in this class, has he been sent to you by any other professors? And I'll look it up, we have a database for this. It's like, nope, or yep, actually he has 2 other times. Gosh, if you had 2 other times, you might not be in the university at that. But anyways, he has another incident, and that may help you in how you handle that student academically within your class. So you should at least report it to our office, and all we do in that sense is when you report it, we will send out an email notification to the student saying that they've been reported. The Spanish department's reported to our office that you were involved in an academic integrity issue. It's already been handled. We're just letting you know we're just keeping a record of it here. We're not taking any further action. It doesn't go on any permanent record. But should there be any other future occurrences in the future, then we may take action via the Student Code of Conduct. Okay, so we encourage you to at least do that. Now, if you feel it's more serious, like in the case, the example I told you about earlier, where they lifted that actually just did happen, lifted the entire paper of the professor. That person said, no, we want you to take action via the Student Code of Conduct because we feel that's egregious. The entire paper lifted from that person's site from in the past and turning it as their own. So we dealt with it as a Student Code of Conduct issue under our academic integrity policy. So what we would do then, we send out a notice to that student to let them know that they need to come in so we can hear their side of the story. And then we make a decision as what the best course of action for them is. We find them, whether we find them responsible or not. If they're not responsible, then nothing happens. But if they're responsible, then we give them the appropriate sanction. And that can be anywhere from a warning all the way to getting expelled from school. Okay? And that's up to those 2 kind of things are up to you all as the professors. Now, if they have more than 1 incident, then we're going to get involved because obviously they didn't learn from their last moment, their educational opportunity with the last professor. We're going to get involved at that point. Okay? But that's up to you. So if it's vague to me when somebody sends something over, I'm going to ask you that back as, do you want it just to be reported here, or do you want us to take action as far as the Student Code of Conduct goes? So again, I just need to know that from you all. So other ways, these are some other things we can help you with as far as, aside from academic integrity. I thought I would throw this in because I know it's been helpful for a lot of faculty members. Absence notifications, we can't excuse absences, so whenever you see something from our office, I'm sure some faculty members have, it's not that we're excusing it, we're just apprising you that the students come into our office. Verifying excuses, I just had this happen where somebody turned in a falsified doctor's whole letter and stuff. And it's like, you just kind of wonder, why don't students think we're going to check these things? And they went to a whole long litany of things to make sure that they thought it was all good. It's on letterhead and everything, but unfortunately, it's not accurate. So again, that's something we can do, and then we would get involved through the Student Code of Conduct. Providing direction for students. So if you have a student that's having any type of issues in your class, medical, mental health, disruptive behavior, any type of things like that, please always contact us. We can assist you with those things. Providing information about academic integrity issues. Yes, we provide the students as well. We have students come in before, say you talk to them, they may come running to our office and try to, their best offense is and be offensive, be defensive there and say, okay, well, I didn't do it, what do I do? We let them know as you have an appeal opportunity to go, just like I said, is to talk to this professor about it, see if you can work it out, talk to the chair. It's not that we're advocating for any side, we just have to let them know the process, just like we would let you all know the process. So some resources for you here at the university. So the faculty handbook, the Dean of Students Office, through the Office of Students' Rights and Responsibility, that's what I'm responsible for. UNM Pathfinder, particularly section 2.3 and 2.4. Both those sections cover academic integrity issues. One's misrepresentation, the other one's specifically academic integrity, which is 2.4. Your department chair or dean, they're a great resource for you. If you have situations of academic integrity come up, talk to them and see how they've handled it. Your supervising professor, if you're a graduate assistant, you have a supervising professor, you may want to talk to them. A senior faculty member in your department, again, these senior people within your department can be very helpful resources. Gosh, this is what's going on with my student. How can I address this? How can I address this academic integrity issue? Okay, almost done. So here's the current trends. So and this just came out in the LA Times last week, actually. Nationwide, about 68% of the undergraduates and 43% of the graduate students admit cheating on test or written assignments. And this is from the Center of Academic Integrity at Clemson U. Some of the things that were said, more and more students are cutting corners and feel there's not the stigma there used to be for cheating. They feel, kind of everybody does it, so this is the way we cut corners. Additionally, students are less understanding of what it means to properly cite work. I mean, it's the way they were taught in high school. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. I know that was just mentioned. But again, you want to make sure you address that right at the beginning of your class. I'll skip the next slide, but go to questions because I just got the time. Yes, in the back?
Yes, I'm just talking about the difference from one culture to another. I would say that why don't UNM have like orientation for those students? Some of them, I'm for example, a country where we don't have literacy on this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to learn it. So when I was in school in Kentucky, when I used to, the whole program is was that I educated, I have to upload my assignment, it's automatically built in. Show me how, if it's regionalized or not. Other thing that, why don't colleges and universities have sessions, training sessions for students? They don't know how to use MLA, FBA, whatever style they're using. So instead of let's teach those students what to do.
Okay. So you're making a comment about making sure we educate our international students, and that's one thing I know there's a difference because I've dealt with a number of international students in academic integrity issues, and I really try to make sure they understand and there may be a little bit more flexibility. It depends. I look see if they're basically shining me on or anything, giving me a story about how they were trained before. But if not, if I see there's really a cultural divide there, it's like, let's make sure you're really aware of how you cite things. These are the resources here at UNM, so they don't have to go through that again, because it can be very, very troublesome for an international student, because that's why they're here. They're here for school, and it's like, oh no, I'm going to have to leave now because I'm in this situation of academic integrity where I didn't mean to. I unknowingly did this. So yes, we can do more to try to educate students, and that's something we should work with the GEO office and see if we can. Yes?
In a situation where one student uses another student's material without accreditation, does the student whose work was used improperly find out whether this plagiarizing student was dealt with?
Can they find out if they were? So if
somebody steals my work,
yeah,
no,
they can't, not in that kind of situation. So if you took my work and I wanted to know, gosh, what happened with you, I can't. We're not able to tell on that. And there's some things we can, but not in those kind of situations. Yeah.
So the student whose work was used, the person could still just keep doing it.
Yeah, they could do it. Now, if that student turns them in.
I have a particular case in mind where that student did plagiarize more than one other person.
Okay. So what I'd be doing is if you have two students where I would be talking actually to both students as the faculty member to make sure there's not any collaboration there between the students. They say, oh yeah, I did this really good paper, can I use it? That happens infrequently, happens actually unfortunately a lot, where you have somebody that's really a good writer and they say, well, okay, can you help me out with this? And there's collaboration there, and maybe both students have some sort of responsibility level in that. Now if it's just sheerly taking somebody else's work and find out about it, that student can't find out what happened, whatever you did or whatever I've done to that student.
I understand privacy.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah, I wrote my dissertation and it's approved, and I earned my PhD 10 years after. The whole dissertation page is 350 pages, and it was discovered that totaling up, that at least I stole about 3 paragraphs within that dissertation of 350, just 3 paragraphs. What happens when you're notified? You withdraw my degree, or you find a way to make me do something? I'm just concerned about that.
Oh, so something that happens post-graduation.
Post-graduation.
Yeah, we do have the right to rescind diplomas if we feel the situation's so egregious that we need to do so. In a research paper, that's something I would be getting involved with the provost office and stuff to see if that's something that rises to that level as to whether we'd first have to make sure that it really is a legitimate concern, and then I would do some more talking to see if that rises to the level of, gosh, is this something where we need to rescind a degree of a student if that student's responsible and they've graduated. I mean, we do have the ability to do that, and again, it just depends on how severe the situation is.
But have you ever done that with UNM before?
It's come close a couple times, but in my tenure, I don't know of any time that's happened. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Thanks, Rob.
Okay, thank you.